this is going back to getting the right people in the right places, right? Mm-hmm. I think you have to be willing to look at who's producing and who's not. And like one thing that we've talked about is, holding people accountable, because one guy or girl might be working so hard and deserving like to move forward because they're doing everything they've been asked to do. They're profitable, but you might have someone else who's dead weight, right? And not that they're a bad person, but they just might not be productive or profitable. So the business is not getting any more profitable because this person is not doing their role. So what the book says, and it's kind of common sense, is you need to basically be more direct, hold people more accountable, and give them a chance to get it right? So like a strike system where it's like, okay, we've identified that this is not getting done. You have another chance. And if you don't do it after this, we'll just switch your role, or we can part ways. And I think that's really hard to do when you have good people, but they're not doing the right job.
This episode is brought to you by Baseco. Baseco Foundation and Concrete Solutions specialize in foundation repair, waterproofing, and concrete lifting. They have the ability to lift settled or sinking foundations, permanently waterproof homes and structures, underpin and support new foundations and structures, erect sizable block retaining walls, and lift settled concrete slabs, including sidewalks, driveways, patios, and garage floors.
Yeah, I know Rock personally, and he's a close friend, and I wouldn't trust anyone else as a real estate investor. The foundation's the most important piece, and it can make or break any deal. So we appreciate Baseco. This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up. Well, welcome to today's episode. We always like to do one of these episodes, just me and Kallan every once in a while. So thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah, we've been at this, close to a year now. Almost so time to just, enjoy the summer and maybe reflect on some of the things that are just more personal to us, you know.
Right.
And for me, I mean, we've had a really busy summer. We've been working hard, playing hard, but really diving deep into some of the more intricate things about the business,
Yeah. No, we have. It's been really great. You've been talking a lot about a book recently and made some changes in your company. Personally, I've seen it. I've been observing it, and it's been pretty cool. I'm just interested in, I think it would provide first a lot of value to listeners. Where did you even hear about this book? What is it? But then I want to know how this even come to be, and then we can talk a little bit about it.
Well, it's a book that has been on my list for a long time. I'm the type of guy, first of all, like if I'm going to read a book, I'm going to kind of read, instead of trying to read like a book a month or 2 books a month, I'm going to read like maybe 2 or 3 books a year. Right. And so I've had a couple on my list. A lot of them come from Brody. He's been mentoring me. And this one specifically that I'm working on right now is Traction. And it's by Gino Wickman. And it's really, really a really great book. It kind of goes through, basically getting your vision into the inner workings of your company, right? And so I didn't even know, I'm not surprised, but, identifying my role in my company or companies has been simple but helpful, right? Because it helps me know what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do, like what I need to get out of the way of the team, right? So the book is Traction, and my role is the visionary, right? Like that's just kind of the personality that I have, is I can see the big picture. I can see the decisions that are super important, and I know where we're headed, basically. Like, my vision is big enough to fit all the other visions inside of it, and that's what gets me fired up. But you realize that you don't have the bandwidth to do it all, and you realize that you need to have a better division of labor and accountability, and that's kind of in a summary, like, what we're getting into.
So did Brody suggest this book?
Yeah, it's been on my list for a while, but he gave me the nudge to, like, hey, you really need to do it. Like, it's time for you to start applying these things.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
What have you been doing? What have you applied so far that you've learned?
So the first thing in the book, it talks about coming up with a vision, right? Which, of course, I'm hammering out. But a really cool piece I think is worth talking about is what's called the accountability chart. And so in the accountability chart, this is something that I felt like I've carved out roles for people, but I really have failed the business, because one quote, I forget if this is from the book or from someone else I heard, but a quote that, like, has been ringing in my head over and over is, if two people are accountable for it, no one is. I'm pretty sure it is in the book, right? So basically, like, in our business, we'll have our meeting, and I'll say, hey, you two take care of this thing. Like, whichever one has availability to do it first. Never gets done. Mm-hmm. And that's on me, right? Because we don't have the accountability structure set up that, the mission critical stuff's getting done, but we're letting a lot slip through the cracks. So one of the first things you do is you bring up an integrator. So Jerem, who was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, I met with him and Casey, who are the two that came on the episode, and we just talked about, division of labor, and Jerem stepped up and Casey stepped up, and he's taken on a whole lot of other stuff, which we'll get to talk about. But Jerem's the integrator, which means I'm the visionary, but I don't have the bandwidth to, like, go follow up and hold everyone accountable. Does that make sense? Yeah. And, like, actually get the stuff done. So that's kind of the role that he's taken on, and I think he's helping me set up the whole infrastructure.
Yeah, I thinking, having been an employee for so long, almost my whole working life, I can see exactly that quote, how that actually happens. I mean, two people given the same task, like, it's just kind of like, well, it's not clear who's going to do what, and then someone thinks someone's going to do it, and it just doesn't get done. It's so weird, but I'm sure anyone listening would probably understand exactly. So I think it's a really powerful solution for small businesses growing. These big companies, they already have it all established, right? But it's like, when you're growing in a small business and you're trying to figure things out and get things organized, it's like that one person needs to be in charge. That's what it's got to be. And then if they need to ask for help, then that they can do that or whatever. But
right. And I think we'd be surprised at how much big businesses struggle with it too. Like, I think some big businesses just have enough success as far as how much money they can pull in, that a lot of these details and accountability charts, they slip through the cracks. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Even in, I would guess, probably some big publicly traded companies still have some of these issues.
Sure.
But it's been really good for me to say, okay, who does this? What do I do? And find out where my time is best spent. And also just to say that stuff out loud, like, to tell my guys, like, hey, I'm in your way. I am selfishly running the meetings. You guys need to run the meetings, and I'll be a guest, basically. Like, not a guest, I'm still going to have a lot of say, but if you guys can help me prioritize meetings and plan meetings and put together agendas, we can govern meetings at a tighter schedule. Like, these are just details that to someone that's not in a business might not notice, but to us, we've noticed night and day difference,
Yeah. No, that's great. Have there been any other things that have really influenced or been on your mind as far as business or lessons learned recently?
There's been so much. I mean, we have everything. Like, I think one thing is you flip, and we've talked about this before, but you flip from that scarcity mindset of like, hey, I want to keep all the capital and not carve out, not give any away. And then you have that epiphany where you're like, okay, the more that I give away, the more I have a chance to grow. But then you also, so you start, hiring new roles, carving out new opportunities, like giving raises, things like that. And then what happens is, you kind of have to make that situation profitable, right? So like right now, I have people in my head who I want to promote, give raises, bring up through the ranks, but I cannot do it until we make what we have work. So that weighs a lot on my mind because I feel like I'm on the clock. Like I feel like I have to make this business profitable or else I might lose this person or else, you know what I mean?
Right. So I can see what you're saying. These good people coming up in your company who want to grow with you, who want to get higher and higher. And everyone wants to be a part of the legacy, the company, the future.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're not growing, if you don't have enough meat on the bone.
Yeah. And it's a big deal. And I think one thing that helps is and this is what we're working on, is getting everybody on the same page with the vision, right? Like not being shy about saying, I want to build an empire. I want to make a ton of money and I want you guys to make a ton of money. And maybe not being so shy about that, because I feel like maybe some people, for various reasons, maybe they want to be humble or modest or, maybe not show how much they want to get. Maybe they feel something. But for me, I think I don't feel any of that. I do feel the need, just opening up a little bit. Like I do feel the need to not show off. Like I feel like that is just disrespectful to the people that are on your team, right?
What do you mean by show off?
Like
buy a Cadillac or
that too. But I mean like flex, right? Like, or maybe just like a good example would be like in the grueling heat of the summer, if I'm taking a day off playing, like, and I sometimes I feel funny about like posting what I'm doing at the moment, and I wait till I'm done doing it to post about it. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Because you never know, like if my guys are grueling in the heat of the day and I'm at the pool, or you know what I mean?
Oh,
I feel weird about it, but they don't see also like when they're at the pool and I'm working, you know what I mean? Because they're not thinking about that. So
yeah, or at night when they're sleeping and you're working or whatever
right.
it is. Right.
When I'm texting everyone in the business after midnight, like late night thoughts, we have to get this done tomorrow.
I know.
You know what I mean? But getting back to kind of like my point though, like for example, like I'm bringing in my brother-in-law he's moving here from Alaska, and he's going to be a part of our organization. And like, he's a sharp guy. And
Taylor?
Yeah, Taylor. Okay. And I have a high motivation to help him, climb the ranks. But I also have people in line ahead of him that I have to be fair with, right? And I owe it to the people that are loyal, that have stuck with me, that have invested, like they're in line first, right? So the faster that I can get them, happy, the faster I can move Taylor up. Like, and it's not just for other people too, like it's for the good of the company, right? Like the more we can grow and keep the quality really high, the more everyone's going to be smiling, right? And so part of this vision is there's three folds, right? To what we do. We have our customers, so the actual moving customers, and we have a huge intrinsic reward and a huge responsibility to change their life. Like what we do on their moving day matters, seriously. And I think thinking about that, having that be at the forefront of everyone's mind, like at the end of the day, we can save someone's life. Like we're going to save their backs, their stress. They're not going to yell at their spouse, and they can come away saying, we will never move ourselves again. That was worth every penny. So like we have the customers. Then on the investment side, like Big Storage Ventures, we have our partners and investors, the people that are really trusting us to get the work done. And it's up to us to build them wealth. So we have these people that are trusting us, that they're saying, hey, we want to get in this asset class and here's a few talents, go make more, right? So we have that responsibility. That's a big why. And then in the middle, we have our team, like everybody that's working with us, everyone that's, I don't like to say like, anything except in the same direction, right? And we have a responsibility to them to provide for them and carve out a good career for them, right? And build financial rewards and intrinsic rewards so that they're both happy with the pay they're getting and the job they're doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on my mind now.
Yeah.
There's like so many things. And I'm going to see if I can remember them all.
I just had to get it all out.
I'm like, okay, I want to talk, boom, I want to branch in like 4 different directions. But I will make a couple comments. One, now I'm going to forget what I just said. I'm going to make comments, but I'm thinking about a business and expansion. So like a good question is like, how do you grow and expand? That's it's a question that you often ask. But you are a person who has grown and expand tremendously. And I think you do have a lot of insights, and I think you're sharing those insights right now. So I want to point out that what you're sharing is some lessons on growth and expansion. But I think it's interesting that like small businesses, there's this weird thing, and like when you're trying to just get over to that ability to grow, and to be able to move, and the growing pains and like getting the having enough money to hire the right people to help so you can step away and keep that flowing, I think is a big topic, and we could talk about stuff like that. So I thought that's interesting. I wanted to point that out. Another thing is I kind of want to share some lessons that I've learned from Enterprise Rent-A-Car or Enterprise Holdings. So Enterprise Holdings is one of the biggest family-owned businesses in the world, or in America, I think. Cool. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Look it up. I can look it up.
They're big.
But
they rent a lot of cars
because but they're still family-owned. Like it's a family-owned. It's
not publicly traded or anything.
No.
Okay.
And that's why no one talks about them because they're a private company. And I've mentioned this before, but Jack Taylor, who started the company, Enterprise is from one of the World War II carriers.
Okay.
One of his famous quotes is, "Take care of your customers and your employees, and profits will follow."
Yeah.
That's his famous quote. How he models his business is everyone in his business has to start from the ground up. So even his kids. So his kids that are the CEO,
right?
She had to start renting cars.
Yeah.
Now there's different divisions. So they're like a admin, like the accounting and HR division.
Yeah.
It's its own little division, but the concept's the same. Is they will never, at least they claim, they don't hire outside people. They want to grow within. Another thing they do which is really cool is that they profit share. So they do it a commission. Mm-hmm. So basically, like if you were a branch manager, you're getting paid off the numbers. Yeah. Your net income of that branch.
Yeah.
And then if you're an area manager, you're getting paid commission off the profit of your 5 branches that you oversee. And then it just climbs up from there. So people have built, the Enterprise has made so many people, so many just, regular people, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they've been able to create a very powerful win-win. Like, our group, the people who run the group, the mini CEO of the Nevada group and the CFO of the Nevada group, like they all make 7-figure incomes.
Wow.
Like they do really well. And it's a $28 billion per year revenue company.
Yeah.
And the family does very well, but they found a way. The point is that they have found a way to, like, I think their model is amazing, and no one talks about it because they're private company, but it's like for them to be able to share a little bit, but then they build in those incentives for their employees kind of too. It's like now everyone is worried about those extra costs. Like everyone is worried because you almost feel like it's your own business.
Yeah.
You feel like an entrepreneur in their company, but it's not your money. You don't have to.
It is your money.
But, yes, it is your money, but like not your capital you've had to invest. Like your risk it's a little less risk, except the fact that if you lost your job and you failed the company, that, where would you go?
Of course.
But what's cool is how they built that in there. And I think that's, those are just some lessons that I've learned that I was thinking about, because I see some of these little signs here and there from what you've talked about.
Yeah. And it's like, I guess the soonest you can do it, the better. Right. And I think there's
expansion, going back, talking about,
well, the soonest you can peel off some, right? Like the soonest that you can get the right people in the right places with the right rewards, everyone needs to be incentivized. And I mean, if I'm being honest, like everyone is incentivized, like there's something, but you can always do better. And I think it takes a couple things. So the first one that comes to my mind is you have to look in the mirror financially, right? So like, and we've talked about this before, talking to your accountant, talking about, okay, where are our margins? What's our nets? What's our, what's our gross, right? Like understanding where that's at is a big piece of it, right? Because you may feel like you can't give anything, but maybe you could give something if you know where things are coming from. And maybe if you know what numbers are hurting on the financial statements, you can know, okay, here's what reward I'll give based off of the financial statements. So that's one piece of it, is to be willing to, even if you're not a super, like, me, like I'm not an accountant, like the financial statements are not my strong suit, but if I'm willing to take the time to have someone talk me through it, very helpful as far as just getting comfortable putting those incentives in place. Another thing, or another big piece too, and this is going back to getting the right people in the right places, right? Mm-hmm. I think you have to be willing to look at who's producing and who's not. And like one thing that we've talked about is, holding people accountable, because one guy or girl might be working so hard and deserving like to move forward because they're doing everything they've been asked to do. They're profitable, but you might have someone else who's dead weight, right? And not that they're a bad person, but they just might not be productive or profitable. So the business is not getting any more profitable because this person is not doing their role. So what the book says, and it's kind of common sense, is you need to basically be more direct, hold people more accountable, and give them a chance to get it right? So like a strike system where it's like, okay, we've identified that this is not getting done. You have another chance. And if you don't do it after this, we'll just switch your role, or we can part ways. And I think that's really hard to do when you have good people, but they're not doing the right job. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes sense totally. But I think that's the best strategy, not the best, but I think that's a great strategy, because you have the opportunity to make clear expectations. And then for an employee, it's like, you can't be any more clear. It's like, and it's also a very forgiving and merciful thing as a boss or a manager. It's like, okay, this is what I'm asking. This is what I need done. This is what I want to see. And if you can't do that, then we'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
But that way, it's like, the communication is very clear.
But it's hard to do, especially when maybe they're doing part of their job really well, right? But you might have to compartmentalize the job differently somehow. Anyways.
Yeah.
So that's
very fun.
A couple blips, just kind of in the mind right now.
Yeah. So there's the third thing I mentioned two that comments I wanted to make. The third, and I don't know if we want to talk about this more, but just being kind of a smaller business owner, and that relationship with your employees. And I feel like there's a point where I think about Holbrook Asphalt in town. I feel like there's a point where like no one expects Treg to be, in the grind anymore, right? And people are, it's almost like when you come in and if you come in the company late, like where they're already really successful, and it's like, yeah, you accept it. But if people have been there from the ground up, and then they start seeing maybe the business owner, being able to go on more vacations or do some more things or being away, they're not in the heat anymore. Like they're able to switch certain roles, that sometimes they can develop some what is it? What's the right word?
Envy.
Yeah, maybe. Where like they're just like upset and like, they're mad at the owner. And I've talked about this with a couple small contractors in town, especially with like construction companies.
Yeah.
It's like, they have such a hard time with employees if they're like not in there in the trenches, working with them. And then they get mad and they get really upset that they're doing all the work. Their back's the one breaking.
Right.
And then
it's real. I mean, I have that. I don't currently right now, knock on wood, it's really good. Like our team's as good as it's ever been. We have an awesome group, and I feel like everyone's very like accepting of their role. There's not bitterness, right? And I feel like it maybe is because what you just said. Like I've weathered those times where, for example, like when I used to be on every job, right? But then I used to take every call, and now like there's a couple people who are still on the team that were there when I was actually doing the moving side of it, but most of them no, right? So it's almost like they don't have the expectation, right? And I think on top of that, you can always like we're working hard to pay our guys as much as we can and incentivize, and then we also work on morale. You went to our paintball activity, right?
That's fun.
And I think just painting the picture for them. I think communicating the fact that, look, the reason that I'm not moving with you is not because I'm not willing to. In fact, a lot of days, okay, let's just be honest. Most days, moving furniture is harder than, as far as physically, than what I would do, right? But a lot of times when I'm in a bind, I would rather be if I could escape my bind by going out and moving and have them handle my problem and know that they could do handle the problem as well as I could, swap, heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I think you paint the picture and say, look, the reason I'm not with you is because I am carving out an empire for you to climb up in, right? So the more, like what I spend my time on, right, is a high-level moving operation, making sure that that's smooth so we can expand and grow and you can get more money from that, right? And then building the storage assets portfolio, and I can make our company so much more opportunity. Like we got under contract for an acquisition like 2 days ago. Huge deal, right? That's going to create a full-time job for someone. You know what I mean? And maybe multiple people can participate and get experience that they can have an increase in income, more experience. Maybe they're happier with their work, right? And me and you created that, right? And if I'm out in the field, I think people understand I cannot do that for them. Does that make sense? I'm more help to them out of the field than in the field. Does that make sense?
I think that's the right mindset to have and that we need to remember, because that would be the solution that I would suggest is that you need that person going and building and growing and being the visionary and trying to expand and trying to do those things because now you can create more opportunities, you can create more wealth, and you can share that. So I think that's what everyone has to remember, and everyone gets to benefit. I think kind of going back to, you have to, keep gratitude always. We always need to be stretching and growing, but that can help a lot of things. It can cure a lot of things when you start to sit down and think and try to be grateful for everything, everything, and reflect on that. I think it makes a big difference. So
absolutely. Biggest thing with this topic is just being willing to do the deep work, right? Like I think we're set in what we do day to day, and I think being willing to slice off a couple hours to zoom out goes a long way, right? Because now we're giving the entire company a facelift. We're switching roles. We're creating the accountability chart. We're not leaving any room for confusion. We're writing down our goals. We're creating a scorecard we're going over every week. Like those types of things that are uncomfortable to do, and you have some risk because now you may have to spend some money to turn this big boat, but they're worth it in the end because you cannot sustain Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting things to change. Like do that deep work, make those changes, and worst case scenario, you could change back, but try to build something that you can scale. And I think that's what the whole spirit of traction is getting your processes and people and accountability and with the vision in everybody's mind so that you can scale.
Yeah. My final thoughts, kind of more in like an employee perspective, something that I think is really powerful that Paul Burkhart shared on the show.
Yeah.
And a lesson that I really, really loved that is that we should work like people, employees, no matter where you're at. And I think even Justin Prince mentioned this too.
Yeah.
No matter where you're at, work as hard as you can at it. Be the best that you can at it. And I love how Paul talked about that we're losing that a little bit. Where as an employee, go and do those extras, like go and work your butt off and take on that a little bit more and provide value and try to provide as much value as you can, and you'll get rewarded for that. Now, it will be seen, and I think taking that time and doing those little things, maybe your current employer, maybe they won't see it, but you're gonna get that knowledge, that information, that skill, the traits, the character. Like someone will see it, and you'll get rewarded for it. And I really love that, and I think that goes to that topic we're talking about. Like we don't need to play blame, ask who's doing what, who's working, I'm not, and try to feel entitled. For go and be the best you can. Go work as hard as you can. Go try to provide as much value as you can. Go take on more stuff. Go learn more things. Like try to soak up as much as you can with where you're at, instead of trying to wait for stuff to fall on your lap or wait for people to tell you what to do. I mean, it'll go a long way. And then you build that right team.
Wow, I love that. I think that's the spirit right there. And I think be proactive too, like is what I'm hearing you saying.
Yes.
And if you're hearing this and you're part of a team, like ask the person that is working with you that is kind of going to help you carve out your career. Hey, can we carve off some time to kind of like do some planning, some goal setting together? And maybe they say yes, and that's really productive, and you can do some of that. And what if they say no, they're too busy? Send them your goals. Be like, okay, I don't know if you didn't have time to set goals with me. I've set goals. Here are my quarterly goals for this quarter in our business. And are these goals that you think am I setting goals in the right direction, or is this the wrong direction? Just see what they say, right? Because if you say, like, for example, even in a couple goals that would be great in the field, be like, I have a goal to get this many 5-star reviews, right? I have a goal to go on this many long distance assignments. Like I have a goal to, have 0 issues with customers, right? Because we do our quality assurance calls, and they get to know how many reviews are positive versus negative, right? So there's always a goal you can set, and it can be measurable. And if you don't think so, think again, right? So I really like what you said, because it just sounds like something that would really get your supervisor fired up. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it'll be music to their ears.
Yeah.
And I really like that too, because it helps them see where they're at. And I think going back to like an employee perspective, and to what you're mentioning with vision, I think it's so important. People want to join a company that has that vision. Like they want to feel like they're going to be able to have opportunity or growth, or that they're a part of something.
Yeah.
And so by creating that, and then you can have, those people would feel a lot happier and more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
So, love it.
Well, thanks for catching up and indulging me on my latest book. It's fun to kind of review that. Thanks, Kallan.
Yeah.